City of Oconomowoc Common Council meeting for Tuesday, March 16th, 2021. Has appropriate meeting notification been made?
Yes, Your Honor, it has.
We'd all please rise and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak.
Here.
Alderman Zaffel.
Present.
Alderman Ellis.
Here.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Here.
Alderman Mulder.
Here.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Here.
Alderman Kavieski.
Here.
Alderman Rogers.
Here.
Okay, let's move on to our first public hearing. I'd like to open the public hearing to amend the Comprehensive Land Use Plan 2050 and rezone the John and Lavinia Rockwell Park. Do we have any, give us a little update first, Mr. Gallo?
Thank you, Mayor, Common Council. I'll give a brief presentation on this public hearing introduction, and then it's on the agenda later this evening for action. We require a public hearing for any time there's a land use plan and rezoning, so I combine those two into one public hearing for the Rockwell Park property at 517, 525 North Lake Road. Here's the location map. You can see it's strategically on North Lake Road. It has water on a couple sides of it, to the north of 525 and to the east of 517. 525 is currently vacant. 517 currently has a house on it, and it's just south of the Peacock Dam right there. The land use plan is a document that guides all land uses in the city. It's adopted by this common council. Anytime we rezone property, it has to be consistent with our land use plan. I showed our existing plan is up there. It says existing by it. It's shown as like a brown color. That's medium density residential that allows up to 10 units per acre. What the application filed by the city is asking for is to change that to a green color, which would be recreational and parks use. You can see Fowler Park is over here where the red dot is. That's green. This is also an open space that's privately owned. So we'd like to make it from the brown color to the green color. Then if that is successful, we'd like to change the zoning of it as well. This is a 1.3 acre parcel. There's two parcels involved. We'd be changing it out of the Isthmus residential multifamily, which allows up to 10 dwelling units per acre, from the teal color from our zoning map to a blue, which is institutional public, and that would match the color of schools and other parks in the nearby area. So we're recommending that as well for the zoning change. Also on the agenda is a certified survey map. We would be combining these two properties, ultimately creating one large area that is owned by the city. It is very important that we do this and make it a park. It's on the historic lake walk. It's adjacent to the Peacock Dam, which is an earthen dam for future dam maintenance. It preserves scenic vistas on people walking on the lake. And it also could provide a future portage from Fowler Lake to LaBelle, right in this general area. They could take small watercraft, take it out, and put it into this area that would then go under the road into the Lake LaBelle. So where do we go from here? Plan Commission did hold a public hearing on the same topic. They recommended the rezoning and the land use plan on March 3rd. Right now, we're in the public hearing for the Common Council. It is on the Common Council agenda tonight for action. That's later this evening. And then the certified survey map was completed. That's also on your agenda tonight. Plan Commission recommended that as well. Staff recommendation is obviously to approve the ordinances associated with these things, the land use plan and the Rockwell and the rezoning. And this is hopefully what we're looking to do if all these zoning changes and land use plans are created and approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments from anyone here in council chambers? I do not have any blue cards on this item. Are there any comments? I have to say it one more time. Are there any more comments from the public? With no comments, I will close this public hearing and we'll move on to the next public hearing, which is amend the Comprehensive Land Use Plan 2050 and rezoning of Tinus Marine. Mr. Gallo.
Thank you. I will give a brief overview of this, and then we'll open it up for any public comment. Tinus Marine approached the city. They would like to do something very similar that we just went through, a land use plan amendment and a rezoning. This is a little bit smaller parcel. It's 0.44 acres, so a little less than a half acre in size. The area consists of 2 separate tax key numbers, which they would then combine with a certified survey map similar to the last application. It's approximately at 840 Westover Street. It's not an official address, but it's a vacant parcel. I wanted to just talk about the adjacent uses a little bit. We have Tinus Marine is in the red here, the boat sales and storage immediately to the north. There's some boat storage to the east. The OHS soccer field is school use directly across the street. There's duplexes to the south and some single-family residential around it. Anytime you look at a rezoning, you should look at the character of the area, the neighborhood. Is the zoning compatible with the adjacent areas? So the zoning change, what is it tonight? It's changing from RML, which is a residential multi-unit low, otherwise known as a duplex district, to I, industrial. Okay, it's not consistent with the land use plan, so we need to amend that as well, and a public hearing is needed for that. So we've combined the 2 public hearings into one. This is our zoning map. You can see the highlighted areas shown in the brown color. That's our medium density residential, and it's our basically duplex zoning, and they would like to change it to the gray to be similar to what they have to the north. So it's a land use plan change from suburban residential to industrial, and rezonings must be consistent with the land use plan. I'm going to go back to the slide. Sometimes at the Plan Commission, you know, the question was asked, why are we rezoning residential property in a residential neighborhood to industrial? I've given this a lot of thought. As a planner, if this was a new request for a new company to come in, I would say absolutely no. It should be in harmony. But Tinus Marine, you're going to hear later, has been in this community a long time. They've been here, I believe, approximately 75 years. This is to alleviate a problem that the existing business has, and it's for a storage yard purpose. It's not to build a new factory next to residential use. It is for a boat storage use. Storage yards, you know, are active basically 2 times a year for the boats. It'll be spring and fall, you know, removing the boats and bringing them in the fall. If they remained duplex, the setbacks for duplex are actually closer to the lot lines than what industrial would require. So for various reasons, you know, we have a long-standing company. It would to improve their business and minimize the congestion on Westover Street of boats. And I think it's almost a less intense use being such low volume activity. I'm supportive of that request. So the rezoning exhibit was prepared and is part of the document that you're going to be voting on this evening. The area was certified or surveyed by a land surveyor, and you can see it's 0.447 acres in size. They did submit a concept plan. We'll be looking at this a little closer when the conditional use for the storage yard comes forward. But I think as the zoning, you always want to know, well, why are we zoning this? It would be for the boat storage yard. They're not expanding any of their buildings in this location. I wanted to talk a little bit about some issues that have been brought up to my attention with the storage yard. We can get into this a little bit more with the conditional use, but they are showing a landscape buffer, first of all. And on the inside of that would be a 8-foot tall fence. And then for drainage purposes, they show some flow arrows going to a catch basin that they are installing, and then that'll go out to the storm sewer. This is gonna take water from some of the adjacent properties even. So there has been some drainage issues in here in the past, so they are trying to alleviate that as well. This is gonna be a gravel lot, and it will have a gate along the front that will be a sliding gate for security purposes. So this is what the area currently looks like out there. That's looking northwards towards the Tinus area right now. That's the reason I added this is that's the catch basin that they're tying into. They do have existing boats right now out there, so a fence would look similar to this to the north, so it is compatible. So the Plan Commission held a hearing and recommended the zoning and the land use plan amendment back on March 3rd. Right now, we're conducting the public hearing. There's actually a series of hearings. There's this one, and then there's a change in the text amendment for the zoning code, and then the storage yard itself requires a conditional use, and that requires a hearing. So it's on the council agenda for action later this evening, and it does require, like I said, a text amendment, a conditional use, and the certified survey map. So Tinus Marine has 5 applications on tonight's agenda. Staff does support the land use plan. It's to support an existing business that has outgrown their current location. We recommend that you adopt the ordinances required to do these things. And I'll be available for questions after the hearing.
Thank you. We have several public comments. When I call your name, if you could please come up to the podium. And at the podium, please state your name again and where you're on your street address as well. Ivan, can you switch the screen so I can have the time clock, please? Michael Mings.
Hello, I'm here this evening. I was at the meeting 2 weeks ago as well. And my main concern as being a resident that will be directly up against this property, I am on Silver Lake Street, and so my backyard goes right up against the proposed new boatyard. Just a couple things that have come to mind since the first meeting we had that I didn't bring up then. And then some other issues that I did bring up then, what I'd like to bring up now. For starters, the rezoning, it was a concern of mine, not just because of the immediate proposal of a boatyard. That's the present situation that necessitates the zone change, but it's thinking a little bit in the future, thinking ahead to maybe 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and so on. Once a property is rezoned from residential to industrial, the potential implications that might have on a residential area. As it stands now, it's residential, so that's status quo. To make the change to industrial, certain things are going to be an implication of that. There's fences that are going to go up, and I'm thankful for that part of the proposal. Probably unnecessary if it remained residential, and it was used for residential development. Also, there's an existing mature tree line at the north of the proposed boat lot that is, I want to say that it's a tree line that's very big. It's tall, it's wide, it stretches almost the expanse of the lot. And for that to be changed and altered would change and alter the how everything looked in the area. That is a concern of mine, I guess the alteration of how things look versus maintaining how things look. So rather than, an encroachment that takes tree lines out and puts fences up, I guess if residentially developed land would be more of an assimilation of what is already there. So I guess I'm just considering the present situation with the boatyard, the future potential problems that would exist with the rezoning. And those are two of my main concerns that I have as a homeowner. My wife and I and my daughter, we've been homeowners there for 12 years. So just a couple of the concerns that I had here. I guess why rezone it? Why not leave it residential for residential development? And that would seem like something that would be not have to have any of these proposed changes of fences and tree lines being taken out and such, that it would just be developed as is. And I guess that's more my concern and what I'd like to present before the board tonight, the council tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Wayne Frederick?
Wayne Frederick, I live at 1080 Emerson Drive. The sale of this property has been an ongoing discussion between Tim and Steve and myself for a couple of years now. And we no longer want to use the property for what we were using it for, and we're ready to sell it, and they would like to expand their footprint, and I think this would be a very good use for it and very suitable. Tinus Marine has been a good neighbor to us for the last 50-plus years that we've been there. The proposed grading plan provides protection to the neighbors' properties for water runoff, and the overall plan will alleviate parking of the boats and trailers on Forest and Westover streets during their busy seasons. And also that tree line is mostly scrub trees. It's a very tall evergreen type thing, but the trees are not very good. And I've been considering cutting them all down already. And another thing is, from my point of view, this would be a very win-win situation for everyone. Thank you.
Sir, what was your name again?
Thank you.
What was your name?
Wayne Frederick?
Matthew Vale?
Hi, Matthew Vall, 829 South Silver Lake Street. I've been a resident at that location for about 15 years now. I actually worked for Tinus for quite a few years. So I've been looking at boats pretty much the entire time I've lived out here in Oconomowoc. Their existing boat yard butts up to my backyard, basically. So I've kind of I found out things from the first meeting that we had. Like, I didn't know anything about this, and I kind of spoke with them a little bit about it, and basically, with the mayor's help and talking with Tinus a couple times, I did have drainage issues. Like, their current lots kind of ran, when we get all those rains on Forest Street there, it should be fixed now with the new sewers, but my backyard tended to flood. And it was because their lots kind of pitched towards my lot line. With this proposed change, adding the new lot, they've already kind of agreed to address my issue. And that for me is huge, because as a homeowner, I can't just pick up and regrade my entire backyard to alleviate a problem that's caused by an adjacent neighbor there. The other thing that I'm really happy about is they have kind of agreed to replace the fencing that's up against my backyard to kind of just run right along as far as what they're currently installing for this new lot. And for me, that's huge, because right now it's a chain link fence with barbed wire on top. Now I'm gonna get a nice wood fence that matches everything else going around their new yard. And we kind of talked about pricing for some of these arborvitaes, the greeneries that they're gonna put on the outside of the fence. And they're gonna probably work with me on price as far as actually putting those on my property. It's not their property, it's my property, to kind of keep the exact same look going for everything. So I'm super happy with that, because as a homeowner, 15 years now, I've been looking at boats. I might not have to look at them for my entire residence here in Oconomowoc. And eventually, obviously, everything grows. It's gonna get taller, and eventually I'm not gonna see as much of it as I currently do. So I'm hoping that you guys approve everything and let it go through. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot more fun to look at boats when you're on one on a lake. Eric Tinus, please.
Thank you. Eric Tinus, 928 York Imperial Drive. Thanks again. I know we take up the majority of the evening, but a little bit, Tinus Marine's been around for over 70 years. My grandfather started it, and, everyone can take a quick glance and be like, why is Tinus Marine in the middle of a residential, area. Well, when it started, there was a farm across the street. Where the high school is, that was farm fields, people snowmobiled. And so Oconomowoc has really expanded around us. And now as this Tinus Marine has grown, Oconomowoc has grown, Tinus Marine has grown, and that's really kind of the need for the storage yard use. As the population has grown, our service has grown and sales have grown, and which is great, but that's really the primary thing. And as you have heard tonight, I have reached out to actually every resident here and worked through, talked to Mike extensively today, talked to Matt Vall, talked to Wayne. I've also, one resident that isn't here, Mr. Riegelman, who has a little memorandum. I've talked with him and discussed about the trees and all that stuff, and have tried to work and be as accommodating through everything. And so these move forward, and we really thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comments with regard to the rezoning for Tinus Marine? Any further public comment? Okay, we'll close this part of the public hearing. We'll move on to the next public hearing, the City of Oconomowoc Municipal Code Text Amendment for Storage Setback, Tinus Marine. Mr. Gallo. Bye.
Thank you. There's three public hearings, they're all kind of interrelated a little bit here. Tinus Marine would like to amend our zoning ordinance, okay? And when they first approached us, they looked at the storage yard standards that we created as a city, and they did not agree with one of the standards that we created in 2019. Oh, sorry. Thanks, Bob. So in 2019, the city created standards for conditional use permits. These were required. Some of the council members were here at that time. Some of you were not. We created standards for each use that required a conditional use. For outdoor storage yards, we came up with 6 standards. When Tinus approached the planning department, they said, you know what, we can meet 5 out of the 6, but there's one in there that they had some trouble with. All items to be stored 35 feet from the property line. They said, is there any way that we can just get around that? I said, no, it's an ordinance. It has to be met. The only way to do that is to ask for a text amendment. So the text amendment that they're asking for is all items are to be stored 35 feet from the lot line. That would remain, but in certain circumstances, a common council would have the authority to reduce it to 5 feet from the property line under the conditions based on the storage yard screening, the type of product being stored, general operations of the storage yard business. In this case, it's, there's a fence. They're putting up 5-foot arborvitaes that are going to grow fast on the outside. It's a very small site to begin with. They're storing boats that are only, they're not used a lot. The items in there won't be started up and run very loud. So we're recommending that. Now, what that would give them is 42 boats on the 0.44 acres. If you took that away and said, no, you got to maintain the 35-foot setback, it removes 27 of the boats. And I created this since the Plan Commission meeting, so the Plan Commission didn't see this. But I wanted to say, it would only leave room for about 15 boats. This outdoor storage is not what we envisioned in 2019 when the council adopted all these standards. We were looking at 5-acre, 10-acre sites. We weren't looking at a site that was less than a half acre. So I can get behind this, knowing that they're fencing it with an 8-foot fence, and they're putting landscaping in, and the type of product is boats. There's the landscaping plan. Okay, where do we go tonight? The Plan Commission did recommend this. We're holding the hearing on this. It's on the agenda for action, and it does require some other things. Now, the Plan Commission, they did have an idea, though. They wanted, it wasn't part of their motion, but they wanted me to relay this to the council, so it's real important. Right now, we have this thing that says there's a 35-foot setback, and in that 35-foot from the lot line, they said, well, maybe the maximum height should be 10 or 12 feet of any product stored. Right now, you can't go over 20 feet anywhere, and they just don't want 20 feet right at 5 feet from the lot line. And we talked with Tynus Marine about this, and a boat is about, on a trailer, some of the bigger pontoon boats might be 12 feet tall. So they said they could probably get by with 12 feet if you wanted to restrict that first 35 feet to being only 12 feet high in that 35-foot setback buffer. So I just wanted to bring that up. But I recommend approving the text amendment regarding the standard for storage yards as recommended by staff, unless you want to add that 12-foot restriction in the first 35 feet. I'll be available to answer any questions.
Thank you. I do not have any requests from the public for public comment. Are there any comments from the public at this time? If I hear no comments, we'll move on. We'll close this section of the public hearing, move on to our third public hearing, which is conditional use permit for outdoor boat storage, Tynus Marine. Mr. Gallo.
This is the last Tynus application. This is now the final piece of the puzzle that they need. It's the conditional use. They need a special permit approval from the council to store boats on a property. So we know the location is approximately 840 Westover Street. We know the surrounding uses of their business to the north, some boat storage to the east, some school use that's not going to look at it, and then a duplex to the south and the single family to the west. Their plan is to show about 42 boats on there. Those are actually to scale. They said they would landscape it with arborvitaes. They would put an 8-foot fence up, a wood fence, solid board-on-board material. They're going to try to improve the drainage. There's been other issues that have been brought up that I'm aware of that have not been disclosed tonight. They had, like, for example, a speaker out there. One of the neighbors said, you know, that's been bothering me. I can hear music, I can hear announcements, paging employees. Tynus has taken down one of the speakers. So this process has really brought the neighborhood together. We've heard about issues that people have been having. It's actually improved the relationships, I think, in that area. Here's a picture. We heard a little bit about some landscaping during the public hearing. There's the trees. Those would be removed, is my understanding, because they have to do the grading to match in and to work on that to improve the drainage. Here's the catch basin. Now, this picture is a part of the Tynus operations, and just so you know, they couldn't build another one of these on that site. There's the restrictions for industrial is more intense for setbacks than the other district. The other district allows only a 10-foot from the side yard lot line, which would be much closer than what industrial requires. So the Plan Commission recommended approval of the conditional use. Now we're in the public hearing. It's on the agenda for later this evening. And in order to grant this conditional use, it would take a positive approval of a comprehensive plan amendment and the rezoning. And then they would do the certified survey map to combine it. Now, we do have standards. They would have to submit a site plan, a fire plan, hazardous material plan, road cleaning plan. I think they've accomplished that, but the plans that you've seen, this is that substantial evidence that has to be put into the record. All items should be stored 35 feet from a lot line. Tonight, they're asking for the text amendment. That's on the agenda ahead of time, so that could be reduced to 5 feet. There's no, one of the standards is no stacking of items above 20 feet in height, period. So this will not be double-decker boats or anything like that. It'll be a single layer at all times. It must be fenced with an 8-foot fence or berming and landscaping. They're doing all of the above, basically. They're doing a fence and landscaping. Security cameras per the police, and then comply with all other city ordinances. Recommendation is to approve the conditional use permit as drafted in your packet. I've got a lot of conditions that cover all of those standards, such as security cameras and landscaping and fencing. Also the hours and other things. So I will be available to answer any questions with this.
Thank you. I do not have any additional blue cards for public comment. Are there any comments from anyone in the audience? Any further comments on this public hearing? I'd like to close this public hearing and move on to our next public hearing, which is a conditional use permit, boat services and repairs for Gordy's Lake Country.
Okay, we have another boat business. Gordy's Lake Country came to the city staff and asked for a permission to operate a service repair facility at 642 Armour Road. We require a conditional use permit for these types of facilities. So the location map is 645 Armour Road. It's highlighted in yellow there on the screen. Currently zoned BP, which is business park zoning. I did my best at kind of guessing the uses around it, the industrial, even though I think there's might be some type of a fitness thing in here. This up here is a vacant city property that we may use someday for water detention. We have some single-family homes. I believe these are duplex over here. And then we have, I think that's Big Jim's Service Center there. So the site plan itself, we have the building is this white building. It's a multi-tenant building. There's two different businesses in there. The one business is this L, that's units 1 and 3. And then unit 2 is this 6,000 square feet area that's right there. That's where the Gordy's would like to do boat service and repair. About 6,000 square feet of that. So it is a conditional use permit for boat repair. It's consistent with the land use plan and it identifies as business park zoning. This is the front door to the business, 654 Armour Road. Here it is right there. There's an overhead door. I wanted to show you the front door first. This is the other tenant space over here, and they have an overhead door over there. But Gordy's will have two overhead doors. This is that front doors over here, and they'll have a door here and a door here. So there's two overhead doors. There's my pretty cool looking sign introducing the public hearing. Okay, so when you drive down, you're gonna drive down, it's a little tight in here, but what will happen is you'll drive your boat and trailer, and you'll just stop right there, and they'll unload the boat. Then you can turn your truck around, or large SUV, whatever you're using, and you don't have your boat attached, and they'll take the boat with a forklift with a little front thing on the front, and they'll just wheel it inside the building. They're not asking to store boats inside. I know that the representatives here tonight, this isn't an open boat dealer repair facility for anybody with a runabout. This is to do their customer work on mostly warranty work. They only service a few brands, you know, Malibu, Cobalt boats, and maybe a couple others. So it's not a high volume. They're gonna have 2 techs in this facility working. It's just somewhere to have a presence in Lake Country to service their customers a little quicker. We do have standards for boat repair. All boat repairs shall be conducted inside the building, which they're going to be doing. No outdoor storage would be allowed unless screened in a designated area, and they're saying they'll keep all the boats inside. All the vehicles shall be parked on a paved surface. Their employees can certainly do that. Security cameras per city police, hours only between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m., which is reflected in the conditional use permit. They agreed to that. And then comply with all other city ordinances. So Plan Commission recommended the conditional use on March 3rd. We're having the public hearing right now. It's on the agenda for action. 6,000 square feet, about half the building. They'll service only their customer boats, mostly warranty work. They will not, this is what I wanted them to tell you, they will not be doing fiberglass repair, structural work, no painting, no welding, nor acid wash. These are services that they offer to their customers, but it's done off-site at a bigger facility, a little bit to the south and west of here. So the recommendation is to approve a conditional use permit for Gordy's Lake Country Service, Unit 2 at 654 Armour Road.
Thank you. Bill Sheehan?
Mayor, do you want me to change to the timer?
No, it's fine. We just have one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, Mr. Gallo, nice job. I'm Bill Sheehan, the general manager of the Lake Country, Gordy's Lake Country Boat Sales and Service Center. We are currently a boat dealer at 20 South Main Street. Believe it or not, we've been here for almost 18 months now. When we came in and we took the space on South Main Street, we've done our best to be good neighbors, and we're really pleased that we chose Oconomowoc. We could have, frankly, when we looked to put a service center in, we could have gone anywhere. We wanted to stay here in Oconomowoc. We feel at home here. We have been in business for 66 years. Grandpa Gordy Wool started our business in 1955 on the west end of Lake Geneva. So when we talk about a service center, this is not our first rodeo. We've done this before in 2 other locations. So some of the things that Mr. Gallo talked about is to create efficiencies and, like I've said earlier, to be good neighbors. We certainly want to be friendly to the environment, but friendly to the neighbors in that area as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any further public comment for this public hearing? Anyone else in the audience? Okay, we will officially close this part of the public hearing and move on to item 5. I'd entertain a motion to approve minutes for February 16th, 2021.
So moves Zaffel.
Kavieski, second.
All in favor? Aye. Do we have any comments or suggestions from any other citizens? This is our next section. I don't have any additional blue cards, Jason. Is there anybody else? Any further comments on any other topics? Thank you. Let's move on to consent agenda items. I'd entertain a motion at this time.
Shellpepper, so moved. Second, Zaffel.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. On to committee reports, finance. Ms. Sullivan.
Thank you. Tonight, we have the approval of the 2 debt issues. The sale results are in, and I'll have Phil Cosson go over them with you. At your last meeting, you authorized us to put the bids out for sale. In the meantime, we have prepared the official statement. You should have received a copy of that by email. We went through the Moody's rating process, who reaffirmed our AA2 rating, which is good news. And then the sale took place today, so I'm going to ask Phil to come up and talk to you about the results and go over the resolution with you.
Thank you.
Resolutions. Oh. Yes, please. So they're here. Is that okay?
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Phil Costin with Ellers. Nice to be back with you tonight. If you recall, as Lori indicated last month, we are in front of you and had you authorize us to proceed with the 2 debt issues that primarily tie back to tax increment district number 7 and the redevelopment of the Olympia Resort development, redevelopment of the Olympia Resort by Wangar Developers. So today at 9:30, we took bids. That's the kind of the normal process we go through. To get there, there was a lot of work. You authorized us to proceed. We prepared the offering document. It's like a prospectus on the city that we then use and send out to potential bidders and then have them line up and set up for taking bids this morning at 9:30 on both issues. During that process, we also had a few other items that took place. One, We had a rating call, as Lori indicated, and both Bob Duffy and Lori Sullivan participated on that call with me. That went very well. I have the rating report I'll go through in a little bit with you. But good news, the city retained their AA2 status. We've had a little bit of change in the market over the last 3 weeks. For you of those that follow the market closely, we've seen a little bit of an increase in yields. The 10-year yield is kind of, in mortgage rates, tie back to the bond rates that we see for municipal debt. And we've seen a trend up over the last 3 weeks. But we come really with good news for you tonight. So we have I know it's relatively small print and hard to see. Well, again, the process we go through is we take bids, and we took bids on the first issue, which was essentially established originally as 9,895,000, sorry. You'll see it's a different number now because we actually did reduce the issue amount. So we took bids on that. Just a reminder what that is. That's really the infrastructure portion of the Vanguard development. That's going to be publicly bid and ultimately be controlled by the city. So these are actual infrastructure improvements needed for this development. So we took bids again, AA2. We had 5 bids that were received. FHN Financial Capital Markets out of Memphis, Tennessee was the low bid. You can see the bid that was received there. The low bid was 1.5351%. Of the 5 bids, the high bid that we received was 1.6645%. The interest difference between the low and high bid was $158,000. This was a premium bid, which is what we see in the markets these days. I would say probably 90% of the debt issues that we're involved in have a premium. A premium, all it means is they provide you a little more money than you request. Allows them in the secondary market to mark up the bonds a little bit and make it more attractive for their investors. What you do then is take that premium, along with some of the cost of issuance that came down were less. We actually were able to reduce the amount of the bonds by $245,000. So ultimately, what we're looking for action on this, when I get through this, is an amount of $9,650,000 versus what was authorized. So on the second page of this, we have the actual bids that were received. Again, FHN Financial Capital Markets out of Memphis was the low bid. We also received bids from Piper Sandler at 1.57%, Northland Securities at 1.58%, and then on the next page, Baird out of Milwaukee at 1.601%, and BOK Financial Securities out of Milwaukee at 1.66%. So highly rated communities will tend to see a real significant grouping by the different firms that set up. They're well-versed in where the market is and where our expectancy rates come in. As I indicated, we've gone through and did an analysis on not just the issuance, but also kind of the overall cash flow of the tax increment district. Remember, what we're really trying to accomplish here is to set up a structure for TID number 7 per the development agreement that is sustainable, and we have a positive cash flow on an annual basis. So we've gone through a significant amount of work to make sure that that happened when we work through these 2 different debt issues. There was also a second piece of this that was the refinancing of one of the existing obligations, and we have that chart in here as well. When we projected the refinancing of the 2011 general obligation bonds, we had estimated savings of $69,000. We ended up with savings of $78,000. So a little bit better by refinancing this debt. That'll just help starting in budget year 22, your debt service levy will be a little bit less. I talked about the cash flow. I hope people can see this. I know it's very small, but I'll zoom in a little bit here. If you recall, we had worked through a significant structure with Vanguard. And really what this called for is the increment coming from their projected development, along with some development from the city on the remnant parcels that will be owned by the city. We have some capitalized interest. We have assessment revenue from one of the road projects, a total revenue column, and then these two debt issues that sold today are in the middle here. This is the $9 million issue that we're talking about right now. We also had the $4,475,000 taxable piece in the middle. This is the projected 2023 borrowing to wrap up the rest of the capital, some admin costs, and if you recall, we have this MRO with Vanguard that calls for them to be reimbursed back only if there is excess increment in an annual year to be able to pay them back up to a certain dollar amount. And while we were not able to fully shorten this up 1 year as a result of these sales, we came close. So we're about $330,000 less than what we showed in the project plan as a result of the sales that took place today. So the good news is that'll help bolster the overall cash flow. Though I know the mayor's goal from day one with this is try to close this out as early as possible, and this will help in doing that. As I indicated, we went through the rating process. I wasn't going to spend a great deal of time here because it really is a really continuation of what you've probably seen in your credit reports in the past. Credit strength for the city, healthy reserves, modest pension debt burden with no other post-employment liabilities. That's pretty common for the state of Wisconsin communities. Challenges, these are very, very similar to what we see for most communities in Wisconsin. Limited revenue raising flexibility because of state-imposed levy limits. We see that in every credit in Wisconsin. Tax base that is smaller than similar rated peers. They're not just looking at Wisconsin, you're looking nationally at AA2 rated communities. And exposure to tax increment district developments. Anytime you put a new TIF in place, there's some risk. And they're acknowledging that. And then they also provide a little bit of guidance regarding potential, what could lead to an upgrade and downgrades. Usually they have more than this, but upgrade, continued expansion and diversification of the tax base, continued growth in the community will lead ultimately to potentially an upgrade. And then factors that could lead to a downgrade are significant increases to long-term liabilities, erosion of the tax base, and large declines in reserves. Flexibility of your fund balance is really key when it comes to ratings. The rest is the other report I wasn't going to spend any time on. They are lengthy, about 7 or 8 pages long, and I'll let you read that at your leisure. Finally, as I mentioned, we have seen yields increase a little bit over the last 3 to 4 weeks. This is a 3-year bond chart showing what's happened with interest rates over the last 3 years. You can see the significant drop that we saw back in October of 2019, and then a further drop that really took place with COVID hit. And we've been kind of trending in this line with a little increase over the last couple of weeks. But when you look at it historically, not just 3 years, but 5, 10, 15, 20 years out, we're really at the bottom end of the curve and really a good time to lock into long-term rates. So that's the first issue. The second issue will be a little bit shorter to go through. This is the taxable issue that was taken on, again, for TID number 7. This had 2 pieces to it, if you recall. One, there was a direct incentive to Vanguard for some costs that they had, and the second was the purchase property for the roundabout area. So those are the 2 components that were identified for the taxable piece. As usual, we will tend to see a little bit higher interest rate on a taxable issue versus tax exempt. Difference, tax exempt is exempt for the purchaser, exempt from federal tax on the investment. Taxable is not, and that's why you see rates a little bit higher when we do taxable issues. Here, the winning bid came from Baird in Milwaukee. There was 4 bids that were received, and the low bid was at 2.1970%. These rates came in almost on top of what we expected them to be, and there was very little change as a result of this. Here's Baird's bid. You can see they have a large syndicate that they bid with of a lot of firms that they jumped in with to get this done. Piper, Sandler, again out of Chicago, BOK Financial out of Milwaukee, and Fidelity Capital out of Boston were the other bidders that were received. Again, I didn't really include a whole lot else. It's really the same graphs and charts as the other issue that you saw. So I think this really sets up TID number 7 very nicely. Again, when we'll share this information with Vanguard, I know they're interested in kind of where everything came in because it does impact their ability to get reimbursed back over time as well. So this sets up the tax increment district long-term. I think it was good timing to lock in the rates before we continue to see yields potentially increase and get these tied up for the duration that we have identified. Again, for the resolutions tonight, they're a little bit, the one resolution is the same, the $4,475,000 that was on your agenda. But in the second issue, the 21A issue, the amount that if you make a motion to approve should be at the revised number of $9,650,000. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Do we have any questions from council? I'd entertain a motion.
So moved, Ellis.
No, what we want to do is entertain a motion for number 1, consider act on resolution 21-R2935 awarding the sale of, we have to adjust the price, to 965
9650.
general obligation corporate bond series 202021A.
So moved.
Kavieski, second.
Any further discussion?
Just real
Alderman
briefly,
Rozak?
I anticipate these are my last 2 abstentions on this deal. My law firm has some minimal ties to Vanguard, so I won't be voting on these 2 items.
Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak?
Abstain.
Alderman Zappel?
Aye.
Alderman Ellis?
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Aye.
Alderman Mulder?
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper?
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski?
Aye.
Alderman Rogers?
Aye.
I'd like to entertain a motion to consider act on resolution 21-R2936 awarding the sale of $4,475,000 of taxable general obligation community development bond series 2021B. Entertain a motion.
Mulder, so moved.
Second, Ellis.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak?
Abstain.
Alderman Zappel?
Aye.
Alderman Ellis?
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Aye.
Alderman Mulder?
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper?
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski?
Aye.
Alderman Rogers?
Just a quick note to our audience. There's a lot that goes into this, and I don't want you to think that your whole council has not spent a tremendous amount of time, because as you look at these numbers, they're huge numbers, right? So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and I want to compliment all of them. Let's move on. Thank you,
Thank
Phil.
you very much,
You
appreciate
bet.
it.
Consider act on ordinance 21-01003 to repeal and recreate the Oconomowoc Municipal Code, all relating to impact fees. Ms. Sullivan.
Yes. Last fall, during the budget period, when we indexed the city impact fees, we did get a suggestion from council that we start to do this by resolution rather than ordinance. So this is the housekeeping of the ordinance, to take the actual tables out of the ordinance and allow for indexing or changes by council resolution.
Like to entertain a motion?
Rozak moved.
Ellis.
Oh, and I need a motion to move, but also to waive the second reading.
Oh, yeah. I'll amend my motion
Thank you.
and move to approve the ordinance as presented and waiving the second reading. I actually had a note to do that, and I forgot
Thank
to
you.
do it.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay.
I'm going to do
Ellis.
that all night.
A second from Ellis. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak?
Aye.
Alderman Zappel?
Aye.
Alderman Ellis?
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Aye.
Alderman Mulder?
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper?
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski?
Aye.
Alderman Rogers?
Aye.
On to consider act ordinance 21-01004 to repeal and recreate municipal code relating to sewer availability charges.
This is the exact same change to the ordinance to the sewer availability charge that takes the tables out of the ordinance and allows council to make changes by resolution. Again, I'd ask for a waive on the second reading.
Shellpepper so moved, and I'll waive the second reading.
Second, Ellis.
Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak?
Aye.
Alderman Zappel?
Aye.
Alderman Ellis?
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Aye.
Alderman Mulder?
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper?
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski?
Aye.
Alderman Rogers?
Aye.
On to consider act ordinance 21-01005 to amend municipal code relating to solid waste and recyclables.
Okay, so the next item is the resolution. Should I do that or first?
Yes, you can go
Okay,
ahead. That's fine.
Right. So since we've changed the ordinances, it now requires a council resolution to set the fees for the impact fees and the sewer availability charges. These are the same fees that were in the ordinance, just moved to resolution form.
Entertain a motion. We're
Kavieski,
voting
so
on number 5.
Kavieski so moved with the waive of the second.
Spiegelberg second.
Call roll.
Alderman Rozak?
Aye.
Alderman Zappel?
Aye.
Alderman Ellis?
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Aye.
Alderman Mulder?
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper?
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski?
Aye.
Alderman Rogers?
Aye.
Final item under finance is consider ordinance 21-01005 to amend municipal code related to solid waste and recyclables.
This is a housekeeping item just to remove a couple of words from the section 1 and section 2. I would take out the words "and condominiums." So this ordinance affects single-family homes and multifamily units up to 4, so 4 or less. And it used to say "and condominiums," but we have condominiums of so many different sizes that just to make it more consistent, we'd like to take the words "and condominiums" out of the ordinance, treat them the same as either single-family or multifamily, depending how many units are in the building.
Entertain a motion.
Ellis, so moved.
And a second, waive the second, please.
Waive the second.
Do we have a second?
Spiegelberg second.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak?
Aye.
Alderman Zappel? Alderman Ellis?
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Aye.
Alderman Mulder?
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper?
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski?
Aye.
Alderman Rogers?
Aye.
On to Plan Commission items. We have several items here. Most we've gone through in some of the public hearings. Jason, if you can just give us a little snapshot. But council, remember, we have to make a motion on every individual item. We cannot bundle.
Item A is the ordinance to amend the comprehensive plan. The Plan Commission acted on a resolution, but by the state law, the council acts anytime you amend the comprehensive plan, it's an ordinance. So the Plan Commission recommended approval. This is for the Rockwell Park to change it to actually designate it as a parkland.
I'd like to consider a motion.
Mulder so moved. Shellpepper second.
Excuse me, these are ordinances, some of them, and I don't know if we want to waive the second reading or not. I just don't want to miss that if,
Waive the second reading. So moved. Yeah, second that. Shellpepper.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak?
Aye.
Alderman Zappel?
Aye.
Alderman Ellis?
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Aye.
Alderman Mulder?
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper?
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski?
Aye.
Alderman Rogers?
Aye.
Next up is another ordinance.
Right, this is the rezoning, and I just want the record to reflect that inside your staff report, there was the findings that per our ordinance, the council is to consider those findings anytime you make a decision on the zoning change. So the Plan Commission did recommend approval. This changes it to institutional public zoning district for the Rockwell Park area.
I'd like to entertain a motion.
Shellpepper so moved. And I'll waive the second reading.
Do we have a
Mulder,
second?
second.
Okay, who got the second?
Karen?
Ladies first.
Okay, sounds good. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak?
Aye.
Alderman Zappel?
Aye.
Alderman Ellis?
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Aye.
Alderman Mulder?
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper?
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski?
Aye.
Alderman Rogers?
Aye.
And just again, to remind to our audience, there's a lot that goes behind this in the committee's levels, so they're not just blanketly approving these types of changes. There's a lot that goes in. Next item, Mr. Gallo.
Next item is a certified survey map for the same area, Rockwell Park. It combines 517 and 525 North Lake Road property. It combines them into one property consisting of 1.3 acres in size.
I'd like to entertain a motion.
So move Zaffel.
Second, Ellis. Is there
Discussion?
going to be a waiver on that?
Is there going to be a waiver for a second reading?
No, it's a CSM.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's a CSM. I didn't look. Any further discussion?
Just a quick question.
Alderman Kavieski?
Thank you. Previously, we, as council, authorized $150,000 for the earthen dam and shoreline improvements associated with 525, with the CSM being approved and 525 no longer being associated with that plat. How does that impact the direction for that spend?
That's not part of this agenda item and hasn't been noticed, but will be addressed at another time.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Alderman Rozak?
In this one, are there any findings that we need to put on the record, Jason? Thank you.
Nope.
I didn't think so.
Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak?
Aye.
Alderman Zappel?
Aye.
Alderman Ellis?
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Aye.
Mulder?
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper?
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski?
Aye.
Alderman Rogers?
Aye.
Moving on to a multitude of ordinances and conditional use permits for Tinus Marine. So Jason, let's lead us through that so that we do this efficiently.
Right, we'll do this one at a time. The first one is item D, which is the ordinance, so it does require a second reading to change the comprehensive land use plan 2050 of the city of Oconomowoc to change those two parcels that we saw during the public hearing from suburban residential to industrial. And the Plan Commission did recommend this. You did hold a hearing. You heard some people speak in favor. Several had their concerns that they spoke about. I'd be happy to answer any questions. This one does not have any findings. This is just a comprehensive plan amendment.
Alderman Mulder.
Since this is a package, my questions really come down the road, but it's going to impact how I would vote on this as well. Is it fine to ask any questions about any of these, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay. So, first of all, I really appreciate Tinus's attempts in this to kind of put the fences and the arborvitae out there to protect the, the neighbors' views. I'm not sure about this, to be honest. I'm curious, is the current lots that are there, those are also zoned as storage yards, right? Are there still storage yards?
They're zoned industrial.
Industrial, but they are storage yards and subject
We
to
didn't
the-
have a conditional use for storage yards
At that
when
point?
those were put in place, so they don't have a conditional use permit for
So
those.
they're grandfathered.
Yes.
Okay. I guess that kind of answers my question, because as I drove by and kind of viewed it, they're clearly right up to the lot line on existing places on Elizabeth Street. The tongues of the trailers are right up to the edge of the street. So they're not obligated to follow those rules, but that is my main concern, is that since most of the boatyard is not conforming to what we would want, given today's rules, I'm concerned that we have follow-through on the rest of them.
Right. If they would discontinue that for 12 consecutive months, then they would have to come back and get a conditional use and follow all today's standards. But since that use has been there for many, many years, that's a legal but non-conforming use.
And as far as, so the new lots will not be adjoined to the existing one?
That's correct. This is a separate lot. The conditional use is tailored specifically for these two parcels that would be combined by certified survey map.
Is that to avoid having to comply on the other lots?
No, there's actually different ownership groups in the business,
Okay.
and this is a separate entity.
Alderman Kavieski?
While this particular property is being combined, there will be a pass-through between the two properties, but they won't be combined overall. So there'll be activity between the two, and they'll be
That's correct,
obligated to comply with the requirements in both locations as they applied previously. So the grandfathered location will have that tighter storage to the lot line, and then the new will have the setback.
Correct. Yep.
Like to entertain a motion, or Alderman Rozak?
Yeah, I think we should acknowledge the folks that came out tonight and spoke. I appreciate them coming out and sharing some of their thoughts. I like that Tynus is going to try to do what they can to help some of those folks. I recognize the folks that are living next door. We've had a lot of talks about comprehensive land use plan changes and zoning changes, and I've kind of gone back and forth. I've been opposed to some. I've been in favor of others. I think this is one I would be in favor of because we have right now a vacant lot and another lot they're purchasing next to an area that is industrial. You know, they're not spot zoning. They're not grabbing, one lot in the middle of the city somewhere and turning it into a storage yard where you wouldn't expect it. I think I'll have a few more questions about the text amendment change and why we're doing that versus something else, but I think overall this is probably good. But we do recognize the folks that came out and said they had some concerns, and I think, I hope those concerns will be alleviated with what Tynus is doing to help them out and build a fence, so.
Mayor.
Alderman Zapfel?
I'd like to echo Alderman Rozak's comments there. Tennis Marine is a long-standing family business. I appreciate the neighbors reaching out with concerns. And I also appreciate Eric listening to those concerns. Hopefully, moving forward, we'll continue to have the dialogue with the other neighbors and the concerns that were brought forward in regards to the tree line. I think there's a very good compromise there, and Mr. Frederick made reference. I could cut those trees down at any point. I've thought about cutting them down. At this point, I am in favor of this moving forward.
Alderman Rogers?
I just want to clarify that the current lot that's already there on the south end of the building, and then this vacant lot, that vacant lot is 2 lots?
Yes, two separate tax keys. Each one's
Okay.
about 1/4 of an acre.
And then, so the end result isn't going to be one large storage facility for boats to come in and out. They're going to still be sort of 2 separate, but there'll be a pass-through.
Yes.
Okay.
Any further comments for Mr. Gallo? Entertain a motion, please.
I'll make the motion, Shell Pepper to, and I don't know if we want to waive the second reading or not. I mean, I'm willing to go either. Okay, let's waive the second reading then. To change the certified survey map to combine I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. To amend the City of Oconomowoc Comprehensive Land Use Plan 2050 for tax key OCOC 0590-953 and OCOC 0590-955.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Next item, Mr. Gallo.
Very similar to what we just were discussing. This is the actual zoning change now to industrial, and there are findings that the zoning ordinance requires you to look at, and those were included in the staff report on pages 2 and 3 of the report. Be happy to answer any questions. But this would not be a spot zoning as we talked about. This is adjacent. It's very similar to the property that they currently own to the north, and it would be zoned industrial.
I'll make the motion to consider act on ordinance 210999 to rezone lands, not only based on the public hearing, but on the findings as presented by Mr. Gallo and provided to us in our packets.
Second,
I'll
Ellis.
also, and I'm also going to be moving to waive the second reading as part of that.
Second, Ellis.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zappel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
On to our next item, which is a conditional use. Mr. Gallo.
It's conditional use standards, but this is the text amendment to change the standards for storage yards that would reduce the setback. We're on item F right now. It'd be changing it from the 35-foot text amendment that's currently required down to 5 feet, but it gives the council some opportunities, I'll call it some wiggle room a little bit in very specific situations to reduce it to 5 feet.
Alderman Ellis.
Why couldn't we do this case by case? Why do we have to make it such a blanket statement?
Because you can't. When you set standards under the new Act 67 of the Wisconsin legislature, you have to set objective standards that apply to all conditional use permits. And therefore, I wish we could take each individual parcel and say, this is a rule for this parcel, but it doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, as I always say, because of the wise men and women over there in Madison.
Alderman Rozak.
Considering what some of the folks...
Mostly men, by the way.
Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome.
Considering what some of the folks had some concerns about, and I think trying to reflect what the Planning Commission had recommended or discussed was this slight tweak to this, which I think is an appropriate tweak, which would not allow the stacking of the boats 20 feet high in this 35-yard or 35-foot setback. So I'm trying to figure out how I would phrase this, and I guess I'm going to reach out to you on this one. Do I add it to item D in this specific use standard here and just say that no items within the 35-foot setback shall be stacked above 12 feet and leave it at that? Is that clear enough for you?
Yeah, because this isn't, right now, we're not talking Tinus alone, but this is a zoning ordinance citywide, so if there's any other storage yards that, very few storage yards abut a residential property, but if they do, this would be a 12-foot requirement in that buffer for the first 35 feet along any property line.
Right. I mean, that's one of my concerns with this text amendment change is that now we have an applicant that wants to do something in this area. We've done the plan already, the comprehensive plan change, rezoned, and now we're looking at changing the standards for everywhere that comes in new that's not essentially grandfathered in. So I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing without blowing this thing up. And then you got an 8-foot fence, but now it's 5 feet, not 35 feet, and stacked 20 feet high. So I guess what I would propose is we just add a section to item D that says no items will be stacked or stored that exceed 12 feet within 35 feet of the lot line. And I'll make that motion to amend this ordinance 17.108.
And that's just as a comment, that was a concern from the Plan Commission as well.
Yes.
Alderman Rogers?
I just have a question in regards to that as well. Jason made a good point. When we were putting this together, we were considering like 10-acre sites. And that's not the case here. Is there just cause or good reason to add lot size? Because that does change things.
I think if you added lot sizes, it starts creating, I don't think you can discriminate based on the lot size, but what we're trying to do is, I think,
Well,
make a
I'm not saying
compromise.
discriminate, but I
Right.
mean, if your lot's only 40 feet wide and
Well,
you have a
not to- yeah.
35-foot setback.
Not discrimination in the pejorative sense of it, but discrimination on lot size.
The other concern is then you're looking at usage and type of storage, so I think that could
Okay.
lead us down maybe.
Okay.
That does help us in
a
the
long
language, that's
path,
correct.
Yeah. Alderman Kavieski.
The other part of that, too, is adjacent property and the zoning to that. So I think this, part of Plan Commission, this concern being addressed as Alderman Rozak has
Yeah, no,
requested the
that's-
amendment, I think really finds that balance.
So we have an amendment to the ordinance motion. Has anybody seconded?
Second, Ellis.
Excuse me, though, do we want to waive the second reading of this one or not?
Well,
Where's the
actually,
amendment?
yeah, I don't think we actually moved the motion first. I don't think it got moved first. I was kind of speaking in my amendment, so what I'd like to do is
Okay.
make a motion to consider act on ordinance 21-0100, waiving the second reading.
Second, Ellis.
Okay, and then I'll make my motion to amend as stated previously on the record prior to the motion.
So
We
the
have a
motion is to approve the ordinance with the amendment that is suggested.
Yeah, that's fine.
Correct.
Yeah.
The waiving of the
Waive
second.
the second.
Yes.
Which
I'm
was
second.
I did say that this time. Yeah,
I know you
I
did.
caught myself.
So, and do we have a second?
Second, Ellis.
Any further discussions? Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Okay, let's move on, Jason.
Okay, we have amended the land use plan, we've changed the zoning, we've created a text amendment. Now, Tynus Marine is asking for a conditional use permit to utilize these two properties as a boat storage yard. They will comply with all the standards because we just amended the one. And I did recommend approval. We held the public hearing. The Plan Commission also recommended approval. The draft conditional use permit, it is in your packet, and there's certain conditions listed in there that I created that they'll have to follow.
Alderman Rozak.
I'll make a motion to act on the conditional use permit and also with an understanding that they've substantially complied with the CUP standards as presented by Mr. Gallo in the packet.
Kavieski, second.
Who's second? I'm sorry.
Kavieski.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion?
Was that a waiving a second?
There is no second on
There's
this.
no second. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Next item up is the certified survey map. Mr. Gallo.
This is the final piece. This is a certified survey map to create, combine the two lots in the one, so the conditional use permit covers these two lots that result in about 0.44 acres in size.
Entertain a motion.
Kavieski, so moved.
Aye.
Mulder second.
Mulder second. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Next up is a conditional use permit for Gordy's Lake Country, their boat service repair. Mr. Gallo.
Right. We held a public hearing. This is for a conditional use permit for Gordy's Lake Country Service at 654 Armor Road, Unit 2. Staff did prepare a report. I feel they met all of the requirements and standards for conditional use permit. I'm here to answer any questions.
Alderman Ellis.
So if I hear you right, they're going to bring the boats in. They're going to drop them off there. They're then going to go ahead and move them into one of the two garages. They're going to do the work on those boats, and then they're going to let those boats go. Am I correct?
They'll store the boats. They have room inside the building. I've seen photographs. I think there's a photograph in your packet that they'll store them inside until the customer comes and picks them up. And then they have a forklift that they'll bring them out to hook them up to the vehicle to remove them then from the property.
My concern here is when they get at their busiest moment and they don't have enough storage for those boats, where are they gonna put them?
Well, it is by appointment basis only. It's a very low-key operation. They're not going to be like a Skipper Buds or anyone else out there where it's high volume. This is a very scaled-down boom, and I can bring up the applicant, and he can maybe explain a little bit more if you have concerns with that.
I would like that because, you know, it happens, and I just wanna know where is he gonna store those boats?
Sure. Alderman Ellis, to answer your question, the scheduler system that we've used at our other locations is to create efficiencies. So when Mr. Gallo talks about a forklift, it's actually a small fork truck like you would see at Home Depot, about that size. It runs on liquid propane. On the front of the forks, we mount a trailer hitch ball. So when the customer drops the boat off, they circle and leave. We hook up, we bring the boat inside. We're gonna have, to start, 2 work bays in there. So we'll have 2 boats being worked on. We're able to stage at least 3 other boats inside the building. When that boat is completed, we have a scheduled pickup. The boat comes out, customer picks up and goes away, and the cycle continues. I'm confident in saying this about the efficiencies because it's the same process that we run at our Lake Geneva facility, and it's the same process that we run at our Fox Lake, Illinois facility.
Alderman Kavieski?
You know, there were concerns associated with the, your initial occupancy on Main Street. I think you've done a great job operating at that location.
Thank you.
You have proven to be an asset to the community, and engaged with the community, which is what I think makes this community so special. And while you're relatively new to the area, you have a history as an organization that has been proven. And I consider myself very lucky to, as a resident and as a councilman, to have 2 organizations that service Lake Country as organizations with the reputations that you bring with you. So I'm all in favor of this as you continue to find a home here in the city. And you could have found home elsewhere. And I think having that operation here just enhances our community that much more, so.
Thank you.
Alderman Rogers?
Yeah, just, you being here, I know when we first moved in, there was an issue between you and the bank and some property. Did that ever get resolved?
Nope.
Nope.
Is that still open?
But it's not his problem.
It's,
Oh, I don't know who the landowner is, so I'm just,
so it's, I understand what you're asking.
I remember hearing about it.
I'm happy to discuss this a little. One, we're not the building owner, we're the business.
Sure.
As far as the business is concerned, Gordy's, I have a good relationship with the bank, with Nate Zastro and the folks at the bank. I have a good relationship with the folks next door that own the bar. I've explained to my alderman several times, and actually to the mayor at one point, I've tried very hard to be a good neighbor in the city, and I don't see that changing.
Well, I haven't seen any issue because I bank there and I go to Cornerstone.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
I'm not there all the time, I'm just saying. I've not seen any kind of a.
No.
Been to buy a boat, Andy.
No, well, I've got cards on me, sir. You're welcome to stop in whenever you like.
I think it's time to entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve as presented.
Mulder, second.
Any further discussion? Alderman Rozak?
I'd just like to note again, this is a CUP, so there has to be a findings of substantial compliance with the conditions of the CUP as presented by Mr. Gallo and as discussed in the public hearing and as heard in evidence today, and that they are, based on the application, substantially comply with the conditions of the CUP.
Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak?
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel?
Aye.
Alderman Ellis?
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Aye.
Alderman Mulder?
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper?
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski?
Aye.
Alderman Rogers?
Next up, consider act on the preliminary plat for Prairie Creek Ridge Addition Number 5, located on Wayland Drive, north of Prairie Creek Ridge Number 2. Mr. Gallo. We're not talking about marine.
We're out of boats.
Out of boats.
Bullets.
Off the water.
Okay.
This is a preliminary plat. The city was approached for the next phase of Prairie Creek Ridge subdivision on the northeast section of the city. This creates 24 single-family lots plus several outlots. Most of them are used for stormwater detention purposes, but one of the larger lots in the middle is going to be a future multifamily development. That'll come to you in the next maybe as soon as your next meeting, I'm not sure, but in the near future. But this development that's before you is a plat that does create 24 single-family lots. It's kind of an extension of Whalen Drive and the other roads in that area, Blue Stem Trail. So staff took this to Plan Commission. They recommended approval. It'll just give additional lots in the city. They range between 10,400 square feet all the way up to 17,800. The average lot size is around 12,500 square feet. This would all be single-family lots. It was submitted to the city on February 10th, so you have 90 days to act, which puts us out to May 9th. But I recommend approval of the preliminary plat this evening.
Alderman Rozak.
Jason, didn't we vote on something similar to this already, where there was this seems like the same project we voted on 8
That was
months ago?
the zoning change. They did have the plat and the conceptual layout for the multifamily at that time, because I thought it would be good to have the council see the whole picture. But this is the actual document that will get, allow them to start going on the infrastructure to put it in the ground.
Does anything change between what was proposed at the time of the zoning change to now?
No.
In the interior part of this, those are duplexes, or are those 4 families? What's in the middle, this little middle circle that looks like a little kidney or something here?
It's a mix of, in the center, it's going to be a multifamily. It's a large outlot that's going to be 2 families and 4 family condominiums.
For some reason, I thought when we were in, I know the zoning change isn't necessarily dependent on what all is going to be put into this, but I thought during the zoning change, it was just like duplex condominiums like we see on the other side. Was it always okay? Okay, fair
Hasn't
enough.
changed.
I tried to track down my old stuff and I couldn't find it on this one, so.
Nope, I have it right down there, the old stuff I could
Okay.
show you after the meeting.
I trust you. That's why I wanted to ask you the question.
But
in
the
public.
details of the inner area that you're talking about, Alderman Rozak, will be brought to you at another meeting.
Right, okay.
I'd like to entertain a motion.
So moved, Mulder.
Second, Zaffel.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak?
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel?
Aye.
Alderman Ellis?
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Aye.
Alderman Mulder?
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper?
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski?
Aye.
Alderman Rogers?
On to old business. I'd like to entertain a motion for number 10A,
Excuse
the
me,
second
Mayor.
reading.
We have one more item.
Oh, I missed that. I'm sorry. Checked it off by mistake. Go ahead with the extraordinary, extraterritorial survey.
Right, we
certified map.
have, the planning was reviewed an application for a certified survey map that falls within our extraterritorial jurisdictional limits in the town of Oconomowoc. The property address is N60W38429 Hawthorne Drive. It's actually in the town of Oconomowoc, and it is a simple combination of 2 lots into one. There was a lot line that bisected the garage, and they want to do some work on the property, and the county is requiring them to combine those 2 tax key numbers into one, more of a cleanup effort for this property. The Plan Commission reviewed it. They recommended approval of the certified survey map.
I'd like to entertain a motion.
Ellis, so moved.
Spiegelberg, second.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak?
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel?
Aye.
Alderman Ellis?
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Aye.
Alderman Mulder?
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper?
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski?
Aye.
Alderman Rogers?
And I'm not going to ask you to get up again, Mr. Gallo, on the next item. I'd like to entertain a motion for consider act on the ordinance, the second reading for zoning Code regarding keeping of chickens.
Kavieski, so moved.
Ellis, second.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Screen jumped, excuse me. Okay. Alderman Rozak.
Nay.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Nay.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Nay.
Passes.
Thank you. Let's move on to consider act the resolution on creating the chicken permit fee. I think that we should discuss, Mr. Gallo.
Is this our last clock?
What?
That's close.
Yeah, the last clock.
Clock.
In the ordinance that we just was approved, there was a space left out for, it talked about a permit fee. This would be a one-time fee created by a resolution that people that want chickens in this community, this is not a yearly fee, this is a one-time fee to cover some of the administrative costs that would be involved. We did assign it at $100. That would take about an hour's worth of my time or so. So we would have to just verify the site plans and that they've submitted the applications correctly. And then if we get any complaints, this would help alleviate staff time in researching that. So a one-time fee of $100.
Do we have any questions or discussion on this? Like to entertain a motion?
So moved, Zaffel.
Kavieski, second.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak.
Nay.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Nay.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Nay.
On to new business. Consider act on award of damages for condemnation of the 11.8 acres of land owned by Park Studios LLC. Attorney Riffle.
Want to buy some land? It's going to cost you $2.6 million. If you want to buy it, pass this proposal. Thank you.
I'd like to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to authorize and/or direct the city attorney to file the award of damages or pay the owners of the property at 1375 Royal Mile Road. The price is outlined in the documents for a property of 11.80 acres.
Kavieski, second.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Next up, consider act on Resolution 21-R2926, authorizing Community Development Authority to acquire lands through the condemnation of for TID 7, number 7, project plan implementation. Attorney Riffle.
We have a provision in our ordinance where you have a leash on the CDA, and you must approve anything that they have the authority to do. I highly recommend that you give them the right to rubber stamp what you've just done.
Ellis, so moved.
Zaffel, second.
Alderman Ellis's motion and second by Zappel. Okay. We just want to speak up loud so our clerk can hear. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Thank you. And again, for the audience, a lot of detail went into these decisions, both in closed and open session over the last several weeks and months. Let's move on to the next item. Consider Act Resolution 21-R2936, directing the water utility to calculate and charge public fire protection costs using the equivalent meters method.
Thank you,
Sullivan.
Mayor. Yes. So at budget last year, we had extensive discussions about moving the public fire protection from the tax levy to the water bill. That happens during a water rate case. So we're in the middle of the water rate case, and the PSC would like that directive put into resolution form so that the city council is directing the water utility to calculate and charge the public fire protection using equivalent meter method, which is exactly what we talked about during the budget time.
Alderman Rozak?
Where's the resolution?
It's in there. It's in the packet.
It is?
Yep.
What page?
Here, you can have my copy.
Is it in the new, is it in the revised one? You just,
It's in both.
I don't have
The
it in
last
mine.
page.
Last page?
Yeah, I don't.
I didn't have it. We just got the revised.
Hey, there it is.
Very last page of the whole agenda, maybe it just got missed on the printer.
Yeah, I don't have it either.
You want mine?
I 223?
It's on the reverse side of the memo.
Last page.
I don't even have that memo, so that's fine. Can I just get a second to look at it?
Absolutely. I don't have it either.
I'm reading it on my phone.
Yeah. Are you
Thank you, Mayor.
comfortable with the, yeah, and it is public record, yet I think it's a process that we should improve. So Matt, if we can talk about that later this week to make sure that everybody's prepared for the council meeting. I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
Kavieski, so moved.
Beagleberg, second.
Any further discussion? Alderman Rozak?
Really briefly, I'm voting against this because I voted against the original moving the fire protection fees over because I felt that it was going to be another means of taxation. And again, I'm voting against this resolution today for those same reasons, so.
Alderman Ellis?
I seem to be, I don't have it either. And I don't know why not. I don't know why it didn't come in my packet.
Okay.
I will have to say it's potentially a copier problem. I don't know because it's in some packets and it's on the website, so I don't know what happened and I apologize.
Oh, no. Also, I think it's overtaxation myself personally. I think there's got to be another way for them to acquire the revenue that they need.
So Larry, is there a timing issue on this?
Yeah, there really is, because we're in the middle of water rate case, and the PSC's pretty far behind, so we actually
Okay.
expected this water rate case to be
Would you
finished by
please,
now.
would you please read the ordinance for the
Certainly.
alderman, please?
So, yes, it's a resolution. It says, whereas the city of Oconomowoc intends to collect 100% of the public fire protection charges as a direct charge on the utility bill beginning in 2001. I'm sorry, 2021. And whereas the city council will assess the public fire protection charge to all water utility customers, and whereas the city council directs the water utility to change its method of calculation of the public fire protection charge to use the equivalent meter method. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Oconomowoc Common Council directs the water utility to change its computation of the public fire protection to use the equivalent meter method and to bill the charges on the monthly water utility bill. So those are the 3 points that the Public Service Commission wanted to have in the resolution. And
Would
this was
anybody
part of the
like
budget
that to be
process and approved
reread? Are
through the
you
budget.
comfortable with that? Okay, please reread one more time.
Absolutely.
To be, Laurie, before you go, all we're doing is changing the way we're calculating. We're not increasing anybody's fees here. We're changing the
That's
way it's
correct.
calculated.
We're collecting the same amount of money,
Right.
but we're
I mean,
putting it on the water bill instead of on the tax levy. So instead of on your tax bill, it's going to be on your water bill,
which is what we voted on
which
a
is
long
what you
time ago.
voted
We're not
on
doing
back
anything
in
different.
October.
Nothing's
Mhm.
being done
Matt, I
different.
appreciate what you're
We
saying.
just
but
didn't do it by
Kevin, this
resolution in
is
October.
something that was decided a long time ago. It's just.
Correct,
Yes.
correct.
It's
I just
been
want to make
decided, it's
sure,
part of the budget.
I want to make sure everybody's comfortable if they're going to vote. Alderman Kavieski.
Just for public record, I understand your comment. However, I think the public should know that currently the city of Oconomowoc bears full costs associated with,
The public fire protection charge, which is the charge that the water utility charges us for the oversizing of the mains to allow hydrant water
The
flow.
hydrants.
correct. And with this move, it actually distributes that cost to all customers.
All water customers,
Associated with that. So it actually,
even if they don't live in the city, or even if they are a tax exempt property.
correct.
The churches are gonna get hit with their fair share of this.
Correct. So it's actually,
Spreads it out over a
much
bigger
fairer
population.
way to associate those charges with those who are being provided with that protection. And, you know, honestly, it would have been nice to do it a long time ago, but as you mentioned, you can't adjust or correct for that until you do the water rate case.
That's right, and we haven't done one since 2012.
And I would agree 100% with Alderman Kavieski's comments. Alderman Rozak.
I didn't want to get back into a debate about the water protection fee. I just wanted to make a comment of why I was voting against it, but since Mr. Kavieski brought it up, it would have been great had we passed this and then reduced our actual taxes to the taxpayers by an incremental portion. We have not done that. So it is, in fact, a tax increase, a fee increase, whatever you want to call it, to people that are paying that water bill. I love the idea that it's being spread out to people outside of the city, to the town and other users of our water district, but we didn't reduce our taxes by the $800,000 we saved by moving this to the water bill. We just simply reallocated it. That's a tax increase.
And we made that very clear during the budget
Yeah,
time.
that's been discussed several months,
Right.
and that's correct. Any further discussion? Is there anybody on council that is uncomfortable voting on this because we were not able to read it on paper? Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion.
I do have a motion in a second.
Oh, you do, I'm sorry. Call roll, please.
Alderman Rozak?
Nay.
Alderman Zaffel? Alderman Ellis?
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Aye.
Alderman Mulder?
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper?
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski?
Aye.
Alderman Rogers?
Aye.
Okay, we're moving on. Do we have any, I don't believe we have any staff reports, Matt. Is there any staff reports you're aware of? Okay, there are no staff reports. Do we have any reports or comments from any of the aldermen today? I'm looking at you, Lou. I missed you one time. Okay. Reports and comments from the mayor, there are none. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mulder.
Rozak.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for all those that came to